I think as a homeopath, we need to be very honest and very truthful to ourselves and to our patients that when a patient comes, how many times do you really find the simillimum? Sometimes you can hunt for the simillimum for 6 weeks, for 8 weeks, for 12 weeks, for 2 years. But sometimes patients also come with complaints that needs to be immediately fixed, that you don't have time to hunt for the simillimum. For example, a cancer case. You cannot hunt for the simillimum because you will lose the patient. So you need to do something. And in that search, to get better results, I started first to dig in nosodes deeper. I studied Henry Voisin. Henry Voisin was a brilliant homeopath. Every patient that he did, he noted things, what improved not, and so on. In that materia medica are also, for example, potencies. Like you should give this in a 4CH, you should give this in a 7CH, you should give this in a 9CH. And then I thought, this is interesting because when I was in education, I always asked many questions about potencies. And then, just give it 200. Yeah, just give it 30. Maybe give it 10M. I always give 10M. And then I thought, no. Here is more a structure. Here is more some reasonable arguments behind, some scientific background. And I found some interesting things about Sarcodes.
What do you find is the most helpful for using the Sarcodes?
There is a lot that you can do with Sarcodes. Yesterday evening, I got a...
Today's guest is Jerry van den Bos from the Netherlands, who is a classical homeopath, organotherapy specialist, bioresonance and energy field practitioner. Today, Jerry will be sharing with us some valuable information on the use of Sarcodes in his clinic, which are homeopathic remedies made from healthy tissue. Jerry is also the author of the book Sarcodes, The Hidden Gems of Homeopathic Medicine. To learn more about Jerry, visit jerryvandenbosch.com, where you can also purchase his courses or sign up for private mentoring. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout podcast, where we discuss all things homeopathy from around the world. And now our mum and your host, Eugenie Kruger.
Hello, homies, and welcome to Homeopathy Hangout. Today, we have a very lovely guest for you all the way from the Netherlands, which a lot of our really amazing homeopaths seem to come from, funny enough. It is Jerry van den Bos. No, we decided it's van den Bos, right? Welcome to the show, Jerry van den Bos.
Nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you on. And then with us today, we have my very lovely friend, Kelley Palomino, who is an incredible homeopath in her own right. And I asked her to come on today because she has done some of Jerry's courses. And I thought she would be a great one to draw some questions out of him. So welcome to the show, Kelley.
Thank you.
I just also want to say, actually, Kelley was on the podcast recently. She did an episode on mega potencies, and it has been one of our highest rating episodes we have had, which is very interesting. So today is all about organotherapy, which is what you are very well known for. But we have a little thing here on the podcast where all our guests have to tell us the story of how they were first introduced to homeopathy. So tell us your story, Jerry.
Okay. First, in school, I didn't know what to do. In normal school, I was always a very bad student. I didn't have good grades, good results. I didn't know what to do. I think it was around 1993. I did a course in hypnotherapy and I liked it, but it was not my thing to do for the rest of my life. Then later, I had some extra schooling in anatomy, pathology, and so on. And there was a doctor that taught about homeopathy. He taught us, like, okay, we can cure eczema, we can cure psoriasis, and so on. Okay, a few years later, at that time, my girlfriend got sick. She had psoriasis also, and she got some medication from the doctor, which I thought, this is very weird that you get this kind of medication for psoriasis. So I said to her, I know a doctor who does homeopathy. Okay, we went over there and she got some treatments. And after the first treatment, it already cured about, I think, 25-30%. The second treatment, it was more than 50% better. And after the third treatment, it was almost completely gone. Okay, a little bit later, time goes by. She gets another illness. We go to another homeopath because that homeopath wasn't alive anymore. So we went to another person. And again, we saw magnificent results. And then suddenly I saw in one of other magazine an advertising for homeopathic education. And I thought, okay, this is it. this is really what I want to do. So I started first a private education in Belgium for 2 years, 1997, 1999. We did 2 years. And then after that, I went on to Holland because I'm also originally from Belgium, but I live now over the border in Holland, in the Netherlands, and I also have my clinic here. So then we started to go further in Holland for the education in Amersfoort, School for Homeopathy. And suddenly I bought books and I bought books and I bought books. And as a child, I never bought a book. I never read a book. I didn't like it, but I like homeopathic books. What's in there? It's like, it's coming home from me. I always say it's like coming home. So I was a pretty good student. After that, I think it was around 2004, I started officially my clinic, but I was already a few years practicing. And I know my mentor said, yeah, but you should be careful because you still don't know everything. I said, but I will draw the people towards me that I can help. That's my thing. And that's how I came in contact with homeopathy in short.
Amazing. Kelley, you have got some questions lined up for Jerry. I'm going to leave the floor to you.
All right. Well, Jerry, I really appreciate you letting me jump in on that last class. That was quite a gift. I'm wondering you what?
It's nice to have you here.
Thanks.
And I should add in here as well, like it's midnight at the moment for Kelley and it's morning time for Jerry and it's afternoon for me. So Kelley she's looking pretty fresh-eyed and bushy-tailed considering it's midnight there.
Lots of coffee. What made you decide to focus on organotherapy? Like, how did you come into that from homeopathy?
First of all, I think as a homeopath, we need to be very honest and very truthful to ourselves and to our patients that when a patient comes, how many times do you really find the simillimum? Sometimes you can hunt for the simillimum for 6 weeks, for 8 weeks, for 12 weeks, for 2 years. But sometimes patients also come with complaints that needs to be immediately fixed, that you don't have time to hunt for the simillimum. For example, a cancer case. You cannot hunt for the simillimum because you will lose the patient. So you need to do something. And in that search to get better results, I started first to dig in nosodes deeper. Then I came onto the work from Otton André Julien, The Materia Medica of Nosodes. Very nice book. Then I came in contact with other homeopathic literature from France. Léon Vanier, for example, Max Tetot, Claude Bergeret, Maurice Fortier-Bernoville. And then I found something really interesting for me. On the website of a certain company, I'm not going to mention the name here, but a big company in France.
You are welcome to. They have been on the podcast before.
Yeah, okay.
If you want to.
And I found on their website some statistics of how many patients go to a homeopathic physician in France and how many return to the homeopathy. And I was amazed about that number. It was about 70%. That I thought, what? 70%? They must doing something good. Yeah, and then my colleague said, yeah, but maybe they do clinical homeopathy and so on. But then I think, yeah, but maybe it's not so clinical like we think. And I digged in further. I thought, okay, what are they doing? So I kept more reading stuff online, everything I could take in. And then I studied Léon Vanier, I studied Max Tetot, I studied Henri Voisin. Henri Voisin was a brilliant homeopath. I don't know if you know him. Henri Voisin? No?
Oh, Harry van der Zee?
No. Henri Voisin.
No. Is it French?
Voisin, from France.
Oh, okay.
He has a Materia Medica and a repertory. It's very good. Every patient that he did, he noted things, what improved not, and so on. In that Materia Medica are also, for example, potencies. Like you should give this in a 4CH, you should give this in a 7CH, you should give this in a 9CH. And then I thought, this is interesting because when I was in education, I always asked many questions about potencies, and then it's, yeah, just give it 200. Yeah, just give it 30. Maybe give it 10M. I always give 10M. I always give 10M. And then I thought, no, here is more a structuring. Here is more some reasonable arguments behind, some scientific background. And then I came onto this little book, Organotherapy diluée et dynamisée. It's a very small book on the second-hand market for more than €400, $400 approximately. And I found some interesting things about Sarcodes. I don't know if you know the work of Lionel Bagot. the cancerologist from France. He treats only cancer patients. And I already included his protocols into my clinic when treating cancer patients who have chemotherapy, who have radiation therapy. And he also does drainage with Cardus marianus, Taraxacum, some other remedies. But there was one thing missing in that prescription, and that was for me the Sarcodes. And when I came to the Sarcodes, everybody know what a Sarcode is, I guess.
Maybe just run it past us anyway, because we have a wide variety of listeners. We've got like home prescribers and homeopaths and students and everyone. Okay. So it'd be great to have a refresher.
Yeah. A nosode is made from a sick tissue and a sarcode is made from a healthy organ, for example. We are not talking about Ambragerisea, for example. We are not talking about the lux in this particular, but more like organs, hormones, even neurotransmitters or whatever. Something derived from the body. Mostly it is from animal sources. And then I thought, okay, what if you combine those things? Like you give first a sarcode like hepatin, to stimulate the liver in a 4CH, because they have like a 4CH to stimulate, a 7 to regulate, and a 9 to inhibit the function. So I thought, okay, what if you give now, for example, a hepatin 4CH to stimulate the liver and then do the drainage? You see much better results. For example, a woman that has frequent urination during the night. That was one of my first cases with Sarcodes. She peed at least 3 to 4 times a night, that woman. So what does the hypophyse do? The pituitary gland, it sends out ADH, antidiuretic hormone, vasopressina, so that you don't have to pee at night. But imagine that thing is not regulated anymore due to other hormones, due to hormone disruptors, or due to stress. It doesn't matter. I gave her pituitary gland, hypophysin, 4CH. What happened? She didn't have to pee anymore in the night. Not for days, not for weeks. And then I had to repeat it again one time, and it was again good. So that was my first contact, I guess, with the Sarcodes, pituitary gland. And then I moved on with hepatin, renin, surenin for the adrenal gland. So it's all French names. Excuse me.
What do you find is the most helpful for using the Sarcodes? Like, is there a specific themes that you tend to see? Like it helps mostly with cancer patients or like hormone clients?
I think there is a lot that you can do with Sarcodes. Yesterday evening, I got a message from a client and she says, it's remarkable what you did now. I had so many years problems with my knee and now I can get into the camper without doing anything special. You just gave me those remedies and now it works. And I only gave her, see that I don't show her name.
Yeah,
but I gave her certain remedies like Medullina 7CH, Cartilago 4CH, Ligament Articulation du Genou. It's a ligament from the knee. Yeah. Then again, Cartilago, Medullin 7CH, Cartilago 4, and so on.
So you're giving them by looking at that, like one remedy the one day, one remedy the next day, one remedy the next day. Okay.
You alternate certain remedies, and some remedies you give more in the evening, some remedies you give more in the morning. I always explain that in my courses when to do what. But she had a tremendous amelioration, and this was from the 11th, the 12th, 13th, 14th June, 15th June. So she is only like, what will it be, 10 days maximum, not even yet in treatment.
So is one of those remedies, was that the cartilage, like knee cartilage that you were giving? And the medull, what is that one? Is that medulla osseum?
Sorry?
What was the medull remedy that was on that list?
Medullos.
Is it medulla osseum, like bone marrow?
It's like a bone marrow.
Okay.
Yeah, medullos. It's often also given in rheumatoid arthritis, but also when there are drops in platelets, works also on the spleen. It's a very interesting remedy. So in less than 10 days, she reacted on it. No constitutional remedy.
So
she got it before, a remedy, natrium muriaticum, and she did very well on that remedy, but only the knee didn't improve. So I thought, okay, this is the moment to imply my theory into practice again, because sometimes I also am more focused, of course, on the simillimum, because that's what we do, of course, as a homeopath. And sometimes I even forget to include my Sarcodes, and then I say afterwards, maybe I should give it also. But you also want to see, what does the natrium muriaticum? Does it take everything away, or are certain complaints still there? And then you can repeat natrium muriaticum. But if it doesn't do anything anymore, the work is done for natrium muriaticum, then you need to see, how can I stimulate the rest? It's like when I hit your finger with a hammer, what do you need? What do you need? Which
Arnica.
remedy?
Hypericum.
Hypericum, of course. So there is nothing about what do you like to eat and where do you sleep on which side and did you have a trauma in the past? No, you just need to treat the finger. That's all, the nerves. You need to treat the nerves. And you can give hypericum, or you can give also like a Sarcode, nerve for CH if the nerve is too much damaged or whatever, but then it would be very severe, of course. And that's how Sarcodes can be applied. It's not instead of, no, it's complementary. It's like a nosode. When you open the case, sometimes you also need Sarcodes to open the case. When the organ is not vital enough to respond, then it's not good. It's like you can have the best bricks. It doesn't matter where you get them from America or from Italy, the best bricks in the whole world. But if you don't have the cement in between, you don't have a firm wall. You don't have a strong wall.
So do you sometimes just use the Sarcodes and like a drainage when you see there's some organ issues? Do you use those first to like build and support the client before you even give a totality remedy?
Yeah, sometimes I do that indeed to avoid an initial aggravation. Because if you give sometimes certain mineral remedies, you can experience a tremendous aggravation. And then we say as a homeopath, yeah, that's a good thing, and that you have an aggravation. Your migraine or your headache is getting worse. And we are very happy. But the client is not very happy, of course. So if you can then prevent the initial aggravation, and that is what exactly Léon Vanier did in France. And Léon Vanier was influenced by Antoine Nebel, a French Swiss homeopath, but he didn't wrote anything down, Antoine Nebel. As far as I know, there are not many things of him somewhere available. Léon Vanier took everything down and he built it further, and then other people like Julian, Max Tetot, Fortier Bernoville, they did the rest of the story.
I've actually also just realized when you said Vanier, because you obviously pronounced it in a beautiful French accent. I do know who you're talking about because we say Vanier like here. But with the Liz Laylor fertility protocol, she uses Vanier's drainage remedies, like in cases of like lesional remedies. So if there's lots of like thrush, she'll use like borax to kind of help clear that as like a drainage remedy. So I do know what you're talking about now. Your pronunciation is just really beautiful. So my commoner, pronunciation didn't quite get that the first time.
Now I remember the question again, Kelley, about do you give a Sarcode first before the drainage? So I give indeed many times the Sarcode first, because if the organ is not vital enough, you can try to say, okay, flush out the toxins. Yeah, if the organ is not vital enough, you have only like a small battery, and if the battery is half empty, it needs to divide its attention to the different organs, and maybe there is not enough.
Someone has a weak liver and they're not detoxing well, you would give maybe like twice a week the potencies, and then for like how long would you say?
In which case?
If someone had just a sluggish liver and they weren't detoxing, how often would you say? Maybe a week, and then how long do you think before it would start taking effect? And then you could give
I would start, of course, with a Sarcode and then accompanied with a drainage remedy. It depends also a bit on the case and on the symptoms that the person has. Imagine it would be chelidonium. I'm just mentioning something. You give hepatine and you give chelidonium. One day I would give the hepatine. The other day I would give the chelidonium. Then I give the hepatine and then I give the chelidonium again. And then I move on for a certain amount of dates. And then the client needs to report back to me. And it also depends on the case. The acuter it is, then they need to send within 1 day or within 3 days. If it is a bit more chronic, they need to send in 5 days. Because I don't wait, like they told us in school, after 6 weeks you do an evaluation. They don't know what the first week happened. They don't know anymore what the first week happened. You say, it didn't improve much. But maybe it improved in the beginning, but then it stopped some way and they cannot remember it anymore. So that's why I keep in contact with my patients after 3, 5, 7, 10, 15 days. That's mostly what I do. So I have a lot of WhatsApp messages on my phone, you can imagine. But it's easy because I can also send a voice message back.
Hopefully you've got some good boundaries in clinic, because that to me sounds like a recipe for disaster. Clients are WhatsApping you.
Yeah, but if you want to treat them good, you need to do that. You need to be in touch with the patient, because you cannot just say, okay, go get them, tiger. No, you need to say, okay, stop now with this remedy, start with this remedy, take again this remedy. You need to see her, because I had a woman with very bad kidney values. Her kidney was failing, and I gave Renin. Renin is kidney in France, Renin 4CH. I gave that to her, and I guess it was not more than 10 days. And after that, the man called me and he said, a miracle has happened. I said, a miracle? I said, yeah, her values are back to normal. I said, but it's no miracle. I just stimulated the kidney. That's all. There is no miracle happening. It's just you stimulate the kidney that it restores to its own function. Every organ also has like an information field, like the way it needs to respond. And sometimes that information field is also disturbed. It's like a computer. When a computer has a virus, it is not a real virus. It is actually a wrong set of codes in the computer, a code that is set in there so that the computer does something else that you want to do. And that's actually what a virus is in the computer. And I see that also in humans, that sometimes also due to birth control pill, that's the most easy thing to understand. Everybody knows that sepia cannot handle it. Sepia cannot handle it, the birth control pill. So often they need to stop with it, and they need to find alternatives. Or you need to treat them that they maybe can support this, but still it dysregulates the hormonal system. And there you can do also tremendous good things with Sarcodes on the hypothalamus, on the hypophyse, on the thyroid gland, on the adrenal gland, to stimulate, to regulate, or to inhibit those functions. Of course, you need to know a lot also about anatomy, pathology. That's normal. That's normal. You need to know that. You need to dig into it. But Google is your best friend, I always say, or ChatGPT. It doesn't matter what you use these days. But you can find a lot in medical dictionaries online. How does this work? What is involved in this disease? Which organs, or even with medication? Sometimes people get medication and they come with 20 complaints, and maybe 7 are due to the medication. So they are not belonging to the patient. So you need to treat them accordingly, in my opinion.
And what's the longest that you've seen like people needing this method of Sarcode?
For example, with dementia. One of my longest protocols that I still have, I have a woman in the clinic also with dementia, and I'm treating her constantly. She get all kind of remedies like thalamus, cerebellum, all those kind of remedies. She also got arsenicum because she was very restless and anxious about the disease. That's all gone. She doesn't have that anymore. And it looks like she is now a bit stabilizing. Maybe there is a slight improvement, but I'm very cautious about that because the husband thinks there is an improvement. But okay, let's see on a longer term, in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years, what it will do. But now at least it doesn't go backwards anymore. So that's already a big thing, I guess.
Yeah. So things like cancer and dementia and thyroid stuff, you would probably keep them on longer than.
Yeah. Cancer also, but of course the chemotherapy is done and the liver has done its work. Yeah, you should also stop with the remedies. You can still prolong it maybe a week or 2 weeks, but then after, it does not need to be anymore that you give those remedies. And then you can try to hunt for the simillimum, but first you need to manage the disease that the person survives the cancer, that the person survives the chemotherapy, that the person has almost no side effects of the radiotherapy, and there are pretty good remedies for it.
And what would be the signs that you would see that would kind of clue you in that, oh, I need to start slowing down on this particular Sarcode?
Oh, it depends a bit on the symptoms of the patients, of course. But with Sarcodes, I didn't saw any proving symptom or whatever. Only with some drainage remedies like chelidonium, you can see very often a very slight aggravation. But even then, as soon as you stop with the remedy, proving symptoms are also gone. But the remedy did its work on the bile or on the liver or on whatever. So it did its job. And the side effect, okay, it will go away when you stop the remedy, for example. Then it will go away. But I didn't saw any proving symptom when you give a Sarcode for too long, Of course, for example, that lady with that frequent urination during the night, if you give the remedy and she doesn't pee anymore at night or only maybe one time, okay, then it's a normal thing. You shouldn't repeat the remedy. It's like with all things in homeopathy, you stop as soon as you have the improvement. Of course, with the drainage, you can go maybe 1 week further because it's in a very low potency that you do it, or even in a mother tincture. And then you can still go on for a week, but then eventually you also need to stop, and maybe you can do it again in 6 months or in 3 months or whatever. You need to evaluate with the patient, okay, which symptoms do you have? You still feel fatigue or whatever, and then you can go on.
You had even mentioned like sometimes you just only give a single dose. Is that something that you would do maybe if it was like a less severe issue?
It depends actually. For example, when the trigger is every day there, you will need to give the remedy more frequent. And with the trigger, it can be, let it be the cancer patient with his chemotherapy. Yeah. If the trigger is there, if you get 36 radiation therapies, yeah, the trigger is there every day. Then you need to give it more frequently. But in my experience, when you treat the hormonal or the nervous system, it can go pretty quickly. Although with MS or with Parkinson, it can take, of course, much longer. And then you need much more time. It will not be that you give one remedy and overnight it's when the system is out of regulation, that it doesn't know what to do anymore, and it sends wrong signals to the thyroid, to the adrenal glands, and so on, like ACTH, like TSH. Of course, then you can give hypophysinum, and then you can treat also the thyroid or the adrenal gland, and maybe support with a constitutional remedy as soon as the body is vital enough again.
I know you had mentioned that you had forgotten to give it a couple times with your clients. Do you always try to give a Sarcode along with your cases? Like, do you have like openings and then the constitutional and then the drainage?
Sometimes just people come with a grief or with something else, and then you say, okay, yeah, it's definitely like a natrium muriaticum or phosphoricum acidum case or whatever. And then, of course, you give only that remedy. When somebody comes and he just fell on his knee, for example, you just give an acute remedy, of course. But if it doesn't improve, maybe I will give remedies, Sarcodes for the knee. It can be. But in certain cases, like hormonal, especially the nervous system, reuma, all those kind of prolonging diseases, chronic diseases, you need often Sarcodes, you need often some clinical remedies, but they are not really clinical. In France, they often call it channeling remedies. And a channeling remedy is often a remedy that also antidotes the simillimum of the patient. Because if you will see, those channeling remedies are often in the rubric antidoted by and so on. So it is just used, it takes away the bad things of the remedy, the initial aggravation, but the remedy works still.
So you just alternate remedy with the Sarcode?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also it depends, of course, on the case. That's what I always explain in my education, that sometimes you just give only like a nozote and then the mineral remedy or whatever. Sometimes you also need, like, for example, the dementia with the thalamus cerebellum. She also got arsenicum for her constitution, but to restore the brain, of course. So you want to give the right information back again to the brain. You can see Sarcodes like a messenger RNA.
Yeah.
You can see it like that. Like it will say, okay, this is the way how you need to respond. And we all know cases where, for example, there was a damage in the brain and that the other part of the brain takes it over. We also know those things, that it can happen. So, and even with Sarcodes, you can do tremendous good things.
You're mostly practicing classically. You did have in your book is very good. I love this book.
Can you just tell us the name of the book, Kelley? Kelley's just holding it up for anyone watching on YouTube or Rumble. But yeah, just show us the book again and just read out the title.
Sarcodes, The Hidden Gem of Homeopathic Medicine. And inside there is some like indications that are listed in like a chart form.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those sometimes you do as a protocol or, when it's called for.
Yeah, it is ideas that because first of all, I didn't want to write a book. I'm not a writer or whatever. I like to teach, but I'm not a writer. But I wanted to have something practical for my study group. But then one page become 2 pages and 3 pages and 4 pages and 5 pages. And before I know, it was 80 pages. And then I thought, yeah, maybe it is also important that other people, and I came in contact with Emrys, with Merlin Publishers in the Netherlands, with Olivier. He said, yeah, but don't do it in Dutch. Please do it in English, because the other people in the world can also benefit from it. So I rewrote the whole book in English then. But I wanted to have something practical, that you have ideas like, what can I give for this, like a bit like a repertory, a bit like a mini Materia Medica repertory thing, like that you have ideas. But of course, you always need to use your own brain, like what is going on in the case. First of all, the miasm. The miasm, I guess, is the most important of all. If the miasm is not treated, you will not have a definite cure. So the miasm need to be treated. Then you need to see, okay, which symptoms are from the patient itself and which symptoms are coming from outside, even if they now belong to the patient. But maybe the symptoms came from outside, maybe from too much alcohol, maybe from working in a petrochemical company. And then you need to treat it accordingly. Also, bowel nodules, for example, they are also part of the protocol. But this is just what is in the book, is just actually like a guidance. Like you can think about this remedy if you tried already, like a constitutional remedy, if you tried a clinical remedy, maybe you can think of this or that remedy. For example, with blood pressure, high blood pressure, there is Arter 7CH for blood pressure.
The
It's a
artery.
very, very good remedy. It's a very good remedy.
But you probably do an
Often it
adrenal
works very
remedy
good.
with that, like an adrenal sarcode. The adrenals have a lot to do with
You can also give renin together with it, like the kidney. It depends also on the patient's history. Where does he have complaints? Where do the complaints come from? Do they take certain medication which is lowering down an organ in its function? And because some medicines are bad for the liver, so you need to support the liver. What is wrong with supporting the liver? What is wrong with supporting the kidneys? They are emunctories, they are flushing out the toxins. Also the skin. Kelley saw some photos of a person with skin complaints that I treated. I think with Po4CH, Fumaria or Saponaria, I cannot remember the whole case, but you saw the photos, Kelley?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That I treated her.
Yeah. So where did the 5 and the 7 and the 9 potencies originate from? Is that what he was tracking? I forget his name that you said, but he was tracking in the Materia Medica book that he was saying he was recording the potencies that he was using, and he figured it out that one stimulates.
Yeah. And it was in 1936, out of my head, that Maurice Fortier Bernoville gave a guideline, like a 4CH is stimulating, a 7 is regulating, and a 9 is inhibiting. There are a few exemptions. You will see it also in the book and also in my teachings. There are a few exemptions that are different, but mostly for most Sarcodes, it is the case, 4, 7, and 9. Of course, in outside of France, it's very difficult to obtain those potencies with your local pharmacy or lab, because mostly they have a 6, a 12, a 30, 200. But my experience is, if you order the remedies in France, you can do that from outside. They even deliver to America. They deliver to everywhere, I guess, all over the world. Maybe not everywhere, not Antarctica maybe, but you know what I mean. But it's important, I guess, to use those exact potencies, because otherwise it's like comparing apples and pears.
And
It
you have
will
found
not work.
that there's a specific lab in France that makes the remedies with more succussions, and you personally feel that.
Yeah, that's also a thing. I had once an intern in my clinic, a stagiaire, like we say in Dutch or in French, a stagiaire, an intern, and she wanted to write a scriptsy, like a thesis about something. But she said, yeah, everything is already done. ADHD, psoriasis, chronic fatigue syndrome, name it. Everything is already done. So I don't know what to do. I said, I have the perfect topic for you, but you're not going to make yourself popular with the pharmacies, with your teachers, maybe even with your mentors. And I said, contact labs all over the world, homeopathic labs, and ask, how do they make the remedies? How do they make the trituration? How do they make the maceration? How many times do they succuss? And what happens? Some labos did 10 times succussions between each potencies, Some did 20, others did 100. And for example, the lab in France does 150 times during 7 seconds with a machine, of course.
And this is Boiron, because we don't have to be secretive unless there's a reason to do so, but it's Boiron, hey? which is Boiron.
Yes.
Yeah, Boiron.
Yeah,
so
Chris, they even mentioned it on LinkedIn on their official site, like we do 150 succussions during 7 seconds. So, in my opinion, a 4CH, which is done 4 times 150 times, or when you would give a C6, which is done 10 times, there is a big difference between those two. So it will need to work. One will need to work stronger than the other one, in my opinion, because you did more succussions. And if you don't believe it, just take an LM potency and succuss more and give it to the patient. Say, okay, do 150 succussions instead of 3. Try it out with some remedies. You will see different results.
Christophe Merville from, I'm probably butchering his name. Sorry, Christophe. You can probably say his name better, Jerry. You know who I'm talking about. Christophe Merville from Boiron has been on the podcast. Must be about 2 or 3 years ago now. And it was just really interesting. It was interesting, like just learning about Boiron's history. And they're the largest homeopathic manufacturer in the world. So, yeah, pretty amazing.
They also have a triple impregnation. So all the granules are definitely provided with the substance, with the remedy.
And they're doing this above and beyond the pharmacopoeia that is required. Have they ever said why they're doing it? They just decided this was a better way?
I don't know. There is a German pharmacopoeia, there is a French pharmacopoeia. You have the homeopaths, Arzneibucher, you have the French pharmacopoeia. But why do they choose? Because in the past they did 100 times and then suddenly they did 150 times. Why? I don't know. I only got it also from their LinkedIn page that they said, now we do 150 times during 7 seconds. So maybe there is a reason for it. But I believe that those remedies work stronger than remedies from another lab or whatever. And sometimes it can be good to have a remedy that is slowly acting. But especially if you are in those low potencies like a 4, a 7, and a 9, and it has succussed more, I think it can be even higher than you think it would be.
I just want to say that episode was episode 112 on the Homeopathy Hangout podcast with Christophe.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah. And that was actually in 23rd of September 2022. It's like almost 3 years ago. It's so crazy to think that it's... Yeah.
Time flies.
Gary, have you ever done like a side-by-side? Like you didn't have the remedy from the lab in France and you tried a different Sarcode and you found it didn't work as well?
Yeah. I did it one time from another lab. I gave not hypophyseine, but pituitary gland in a C10 potency. And that C10 acted like a 4CH. So normally you would say like a 9CH is inhibiting. So you would have the opposite effect, but that C10 had the same effect like my 4CH. But of course, from that lab, they don't do 150 succussions, they do 10 succussions. So it was 10 times 10. So it's 100, and the 4 is 4 times 150. But it's comparing like apples and pears. So it's very difficult to compare those things like, well, what is the right scale? In my book, I made like comparison between CH, DH, and K potencies, and that's a bit common in France that they have the same consensus about this.
Yeah, I've only just started using them from the order that I received in just a few months with some clients. But I did happen to give pineal gland to a client. And after just the first dose, there was a return of old symptom. And it lasted for maybe like 12 hours and then went away. So definitely there's something there just with one dose. There was something there.
Yeah, especially when it is on the nervous system, one dose can be enough. When there is some problem with the cartilage, no, you need longer. But you saw this case that I just showed you, it started somewhere around the 12th of June, so it's actually less than 10 days.
It's the 20th.
And it already improved. But one dose would be not enough, in my opinion. But when you give hypothalamus or hypophyseine, you can just experience with one dose marvelous results. Also, you can get elimination symptoms, and that's why it also works like a drainage remedy sometimes, a Sarcode. I still remember that case, and I think I also showed it to you, Kelley, of that woman who had fear of the corona rules. She was so fearful that she needed to scan QR codes for her teaching class and so on. And then I gave her hypofysine. She didn't have to pee in the night anymore. She was more relaxed in the morning. She said, I'm not going to worry about those corona rules anymore. If they want to do a QR, okay, they do a QR, but I'm not going to participate in this and blah, blah, blah. So she was very relaxed. And what also happened was that acne was coming out. So, of course, it works on the hormonal system. So you get also like a detoxification. And then the acne came out.
So you gave her pituitary gland, and it helped with her anxiety, but it also detoxed through her skin.
Yeah, it also detoxed. Yes.
And
that's what you also often see. Sorry?
You just gave her a couple doses like every other day for...
She took only one dose, that woman.
One dose, okay.
She took only one dose. And later she got another remedy for something else, but that problem was gone.
That's quite mind-blowing because I prescribe pituitary gland 30C often, but I will give it like every second day for like 8 weeks at a time. So that's incredibly good.
30C is already high. Eh? You are in the inhibiting function, actually, unless you want to prescribe pituitary gland like a constitutional remedy, or you want to see a mental picture, you want to see, for example, some modalities. In organotherapy in France, they don't do it like that. They just say, okay, it doesn't send out too much ACTH, or the TSH is not sent out good. Okay, we just stimulate it that it does its function again. But it is not like opotherapy. Eh? It's not opotherapy. It's not replacing, like you need to give constantly. No, you need to activate it, actually. And when it is activated in a 4, it stimulates. 9 is inhibiting. So a 30C, depending on, of course, which lab it is, can be too high for that person. So it will not work unless you want to prescribe it as a constitutional remedy with mental symptoms included and so on. But like I said, when I prescribe it in a 4, I never saw proving symptoms. So what is then the picture of the remedy? You just give the right information to the pituitary gland, like, okay, you need to react normally. You need to react in this way. You just give it an impulse.
So you're not looking at a mental picture at all. You're only looking at anatomy and structure.
Yeah. Of course, you look at the mental picture for the miasm, for the whatever it can be, the constitutional remedy, a bowel nosot even. Of course, you look at similar remedies and so on. But the Sarcode, mostly you don't look at a mental picture. No, 99.9% not. The kidney is failing, you just stimulate the kidney.
It's amazing because when I started studying in 2010, we did learn about the different potencies, and one's inhibiting and one's stimulating and one's like kind of stabilizing. But it never really made sense to me because I'm like, well, the body is so intelligent. It's going to do with the remedy what it needs to. So I don't know if the potency really has that much of an effect. But what you're saying, because my idea is like you give the remedy, the body knows what it needs to do with that remedy. So in its wisdom, it will inhibit or stimulate or regulate as needed. But maybe it's down to the fact of how these particular remedies are prepared, because the ones I would have had access to in New Zealand and Australia are certainly not prepared in that way. So maybe that's why, because I was taught that way from school, as I went into practice, I initially did use that. And I never found that they made a difference, which is why I just stuck with the 30C and have ever since. But if what you're saying is that preparing it in this way is really making such a big difference. I mean, I'm like going on Boiron's website right now and let's see if they post to Australia, because that's what I love doing. It's like if you
Kelley has the website where you can order it, that's no problem. But you need to see, like, for example, also with when there comes too much out of the sinuses and it is too much, you want to inhibit, and you give, for example, muqueuse sinusal or muqueuse nasal in a 9CH, it will block. It will just inhibit. Or you can also give a 7 to regulate. When it is atrophic and you give a 4, it stimulates. When, for example, in the mouth and you give muqueuse buccal in a 4CH, it will just stimulate that
salivary glands.
The coating gets back again.
That's really interesting that you're saying that, because I'm just thinking, if somebody has like loads of nasal discharge, like often I will think there might be mold issues or there might be dairy or all that. And so then if you're giving a remedy to actually inhibit the body doing that, like my brain just doesn't like that way of thinking, because I like to think that I give the remedy to the body and the vital force, and the vital force will do what it needs to. Like, I don't like the idea of like purposely giving something to inhibit it, because the body is releasing that for a reason. So I don't want to
Of
stop it
course,
doing that.
yeah, of course, when you give, for example, a natrium muriaticum and the floodgates go open, of course, you don't give mucosa nasal. That's for sure. But if it is due to like an allergic reaction from mold in the house, I have a patient like that, and she used mucosa nasal. It goes pretty good. It goes pretty good. Of course, the house also needs to be treated. That's also a thing. The house also needs to be treated from the mold. And you can also give the mold remedies. You can
I
also
do
give
that,
those
yeah.
to detox. So it is also like an you need. But sometimes you can give remedies and it just doesn't work. And then you can say, the sepia is the remedy. Yeah, but if sepia doesn't work, you need to do something else. Maybe you need to give hypofysina, or maybe you need to give ovarinum or folliculinum or whatever remedy it can be. And then maybe the remedy will work again.
Jerry, I am really excited about the fact that you are actually teaching these experiences that you've had. And I know Kelley has really enjoyed your course. And there's one of our other ladies in my membership called Leah Bug, who is also an incredible homeopath. She recently graduated. But I swear there's some of these recent graduates that are just like mind-blowing. I mean, I can't believe Leah and Kelley as well only recently graduated, because they are teaching me so much. And I've been in practice for over a decade and, had over 6,000 consults, and they're constantly teaching me stuff. So Kelley loved your course. Leah loved your course. Can you tell our listeners who want to find more about your courses and your books where they can enroll?
First of all, they can go to my website, jerryvandenbos.com. My name is also written here on the Zoom, I see, so jerryvandenbos.com, or they look up Sarcodes and Jerry. You always will find me. And otherwise, people can always reach out to you, I guess, or whatever.
We'll put it in the show notes as well for everyone. But it's always just nice to hear on the podcast as well how to get hold of you.
Yeah. And maybe one thing that I want to mention, because the Sarcodes and the drainage remedies are often used in France, but it's not only in France that they do it, because if you read the works of Arthur Hill Grimmer, you know Arthur Hill Grimmer, I guess? No? Arthur Hill Grimmer took over the practice of Kent. He was Kent's protege, and at the age of 8, he already cured people, because he know the homeopathic first aid kit, and he already treated at the age of 8 or 9 years old. He already treated people. And in his book, you find also that he talks about drainage and canalisation according to Antoine Nebel. So even those people and even the Cooper Club knew the existence of those Sarcodes, of those drainage remedies, but somehow the only homeopath that I know that is also involved in this is Burnett. He was also involved. And Dion Tabret made it also marvelous book about this, Burnett Rediscovered. It's a very nice book. And
he's been on the podcast too.
It's I saw that one. And what he does is also like the French way of prescribing. Only the potencies can maybe be a bit different, but you see also with other very important homeopaths in the past that they knew of the existence, that they also did it, because even Kent didn't do those things as far as I know. He didn't do that, but Arthur Hill Grimmer, he did some things. So
interesting. I can't believe I've never heard of him. How do you spell his surname? I'm going to go look that up.
Grimmer.
Grimmer. Oh, Grimmer.
Hey. R-I-M-M. Yes, Grimmer.
Okay.
Arthur Hill Grimmer. He has a very nice big book about cancer. Definitely worth reading. Grimmer was also into radionics. He also worked with radionics. It's also something that I do in my clinic. But of course, my main task is homeopathy and everything what is involved with that.
I saw you have some like light wave technology and some other, what was it called? Core energetics or something like that.
Yeah, core energetics, time waver. I use in the clinic, but I use it supplementary. First, I do always my homeopathic intake, and then I see, okay, what can I confirm with the time waver or with the core? And then I can see what else do I get out to get more out of the patient also, to open up a discussion. Like, okay, tell me more about this, tell me more about that. Did it happen in your past? And so on. And then you have also, of course, interesting results. But of course, if people want to learn about Sarcodes or organotherapy, I do it also in group, but I also do private mentorship.
Amazing. I did
And
see
I'm
that on
always
your
reachable
website.
over WhatsApp.
Yeah. Amazing. Alrighty. So jerryvanderbosch.com. .com, did you say? Was it
Yes,
.com?
.com.
It
Yes.
was .com. Excellent. And have you got your courses regularly? Like, are they always going? Or is it just a couple times a year, or how do you do?
It depends. If you want private mentorship, we can just agree on a time, depending on where you live all over the world, of course, because Kelley is nine hours away, I guess. Yesterday, I did a course with somebody 6 hours back in time. So it depends where people are, because now I get questions from all over the world, from India, from Korea. It's amazing. I didn't expect that, first of all, because I didn't want to write a book. I'm a very humble person, I always say. I just want to make my patient better, because in the end, that is the thing. And I just love to teach, because I think the best way to learn something is to teach.
Yeah, they say if you want to learn something, teach it.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, Jerry, it was lovely to connect with you. And Kelley, thank you so much for recommending Jerry to come on the show. And thank you for being on this podcast. It's like 1 a.m. your time now. I'm sure you are ready for bed. And thank you so much to both of you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you also, Eugenie, for this opportunity, and also Kelley for being here on the show. And my hope for the future is that people can take off their blinkers and see what a patient needs and not be trapped by dogma.
Absolutely. Actually, Jerry, I have to quote your little saying, be humble, be teachable, and always keep learning. I love that saying on your website.
That's indeed my motto. Yes.
As a good motto to have. Thank you very much. It was lovely to hang out with you too. And thank you for sharing so much beautiful knowledge with our listeners, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.